Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Giving you a warning before we do get into today's collection of stories. This is a compilation style video that's focused on cheating stories. Currently doing a couple of these as I'm going to be away this week. I know some of you guys enjoy these when I'm away, etc. But I also understand if it's not your thing. That's why I wanted to give you the warning up front. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from See You Later Gone and says, me, 33 male, with my wife, 33 female, of 9 years. She cheated and I'm gone. I will try to keep this brief. Thanks to all of you who have contributed to breakup threads and infidelity threads over the past few months. There have been many evenings when many hours have been spent poring over the advice that is generated from these posts. It has helped me to formulate a plan and then execute it. Here's the short version of the last 7 months. Happily married, no kids, both professionals. My job requires a good bit of travel, which is not a big deal since her job forces her to work 80 plus hours a week. We are both very busy, but her much more than myself. A few things didn't add up last September, so based on the advice on Reddit, the investigating began. It took me a long time to figure out what was going on because she was excellent at covering her tracks. Around November, all of the pieces came together, and outside help was brought in to help me get all my ducks in a row. An attorney was hired, and so was a private eye. In January, everything was confirmed 100% by the PI, and that was all the proof that I needed. After much thought, today is the day that everything ends. I've been planning it since the visual confirmation earlier this year. She is being served at her office today at 4 PM. Based on the conversation she has had with me and conversations she's been having with the other guy, there is no way she has any idea that this is coming from me. It will be a shock, but certainly not a surprise. The divorce will be very simple since we earn about the same amount of money and we didn't have a ton of stuff. The truck is in front of the house and it is now loaded. I am moving out of state. It doesn't matter where I live since I'm in sales and my territory is half of the United States. The furniture that is going with me are the pieces that were given to me by my family when we were married. She can have everything else and she is going to be keeping 3/4 of it anyway. I'm driving the truck myself and can't wait to get my new condo and start a brand new life. My last 6 months have been pure hell. Here is the question, and I think I already know the answer, but would love to hear your opinions. Our other guy is a co-worker at the law firm. He is early 50s with a wife and 3 daughters. They don't appear to work in the same department, and he is not her boss. By all appearances, he has a great family and a great life. Do I contact his wife as I am leaving town? Would you want to know? Am I just being spiteful? Edit. She got the papers. Phone calls and texts non-stop for the last 15 or so minutes. Her sister and mother have phoned me as well. I've not responded to any of them. Also, I am moving from a large city in northeast of Florida. Trying to get to South Carolina tonight and then to my final stop tomorrow. I'm stopping for gas and coffee right now and I really appreciate all the kind words. Edit 2. I'm still on the road, but getting closer to my new home. Last night was very interesting. I did not speak with her or text her. I did speak on the phone with mother and her sister. My words were very careful and thought out to her sister, as I would expect her to hang up the phone with me and tell her everything. Talking to my mum was not easy. It is a humiliating situation to discuss with your family. My mum gave me 100% support and is coming to visit me next weekend at my new place. Mums are the best. I will get settled in and update everything in a couple of days. I've decided to not contact the boyfriend's wife. I could change my mind down the road, but for now, no contact with her is planned. Looking forward to starting anew. And advice on these sort of stories is always firstly, get everything in order. Ducks in a row, as they like to say. From the legal perspective, if this is the path you're going to go down. And, a lot of people would say in the comments from what I've read in previous stories is that always protect yourself first, whatever that may be. And the wife of the other family absolutely deserves to know. I mean, think about how you're feeling, how betrayed you're feeling in this situation, and there's someone exactly the same going through the same situation and likely does not know about it. But some of the comments on this one says, while I always operate under the assumption that I would want to know this, keep in mind that if your wife loses her job over this, then it could have a negative outcome for you in the divorce, as you two will no longer be earning about the same. Ask yourself, if the relief you would feel from revenge is worth a potential financial cost. Also, keep in mind that revenge can be delayed. You could wait until your divorce is final and then tell the other guy's wife. That would have less potential to negatively impact you financially. Someone says, ask your divorce lawyer if he thinks this could have a negative impact on your divorce proceedings. As someone pointed out, this could impact your soon-to-be ex-wife's income, and that could impact your divorce. Another one says, I don't know, am I a bad person, but I just fucking love when people like this get their comeuppance. Already imagining the whole, you've been served. Bam. Folder slammed in front of her at 4 p.m. And you know what? Yeah, fuck it. Tell his wife. They made their bed. Now they can fucking lay in it. Yours sincerely, an evil Redditor. Opie responded saying, I'm sure that she will rush home after getting this, and when she gets there, she will find nothing of mine in our home. I was going to leave my wedding ring on the kitchen counter, but decided against that. She deserves everything that comes her way. Another one says, let the guy's wife know. My aunt had this happen to her. No one ever told her, and she was kept in the dark for another 5 years. After my uncle and the woman he was cheating on her with got found out by the woman's husband. She was irreparably devastated that everyone seemed to know but her. Letting them know gives her a choice. Someone quotes Opie and says, would you want to know? Am I just being spiteful? Opie says the problem is that both propositions are true. Most likely she would like to know. On the other hand, of course you are being spiteful. Be honest, your motivation right now is to leave as much scorched earth as possible. Understandable, but not pretty. But you know what, you don't have to decide right away. The way this is going down is going to have her lover extremely nervous anyway, so your move is already going to jumpstart its anxiety. There may be good reasons for telling his wife, but vengefulness is not one of them. Wait until you're over your first rage and decide the question on its own merits, and not your own rage. Another commenter says, you should probably tell the wife of the guy, just to give her an idea of what she's dealing with. However, before you do so, definitely ask your lawyer for advice on the timing, to make absolutely sure that it won't have any impact on your divorce, such as the consequence of having to pay alimony or something similar. If the lawyer tells you it's okay, go ahead and tell her now. If not, wait until the divorce is finalized, then tell her. Still, definitely tell the wife. This is probably not the first instance of the guy putting his dick where he shouldn't. So, OP then kindly updates the post and says, I got into my new place Friday evening and got unpacked and settled in on Saturday. It is very strange to be starting over again, but it is the right thing to do. Thank you for all your encouragement and your questions. Here are some answers. There was never a response by me to my soon-to-be ex-wife. The calls and texts went unanswered and they eventually stopped yesterday morning. The last one she sent said that she will sign the papers and grant me the divorce. Wow, thanks. There was some conversation between her sister and myself. We had a brief guarded phone call Thursday night and then a long and very helpful follow-up on Saturday. While she wants to protect her sister, she understands exactly why I did what I did and does not blame me for it. After the call, there doesn't seem to be any hostility towards me. I'm grateful for that. Based upon many of your suggestions, the other guy's wife will have to remain in the dark from me. Leaving the situation for me means not staying involved. Now, if she called me up and wanted to know what was going on, I'll tell her everything. No hesitation at all. Here is the hard part. How did I catch her? Last summer, there were some subtle changes in her behavior, and each one of these by itself is no biggie. But as a group, they bothered me. She started drinking more. It went from 1 drink of wine once a week to nearly every night. There are a couple of times where she lost her cool over little things that tend to happen in life. Blowing up at a waitress, guy on the metro, kid at Chipotle, etc. She was never like that before. There was a night where she yelled at her parents on the phone and hung up on them, which was way out of character for her. But here is the one that set this all in motion. At a wedding last fall, one of our college friends was there and recently divorced. The friend was lonely and feeling terrible about herself. My wife suggested that someone should sleep with her to get her confidence back, and that she was alright with it if it was me. Needless to say, I was stunned and never would do anything like that. That night while lying in bed, the only reason that I could think of to make her say that was that she was fooling around and looking for a way to ease her guilt. And I was right. It just took me a little while to piece together what was going on. As stated earlier, the guy is an older man who works for the same firm as her. For a while, they were meeting during the day at different hotels around town. When I was out of town, she was hosting him in our home. They used our guest bedroom, which did not occur to me for almost 6 weeks. After establishing how they communicated, burner phone hidden in their car, and where they were meeting, our house mostly, it was easy for me to gather all evidence that would make it easy for me to file papers. Thank you to the lawyer and private eye. For the PI, you can hear and see everything in graphic detail. There are a lot of tears shed by me when confronted with the blunt reality of what was happening, and what was being said about me to him, and what was happening in my own home. However, as many of you have pointed out, she is the one in the wrong. I can hold my head up high knowing that I did the right thing. Oh well, I hope that answers some questions. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? How would you have dealt with it if it was you? You think you would have told the wife about it? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from Nuclear Throwaway 1234, who says, I, male 25, recently learned my father, 50s male, was cheating on my mother, 50s female. I instantly went nuclear. Advice on my response / how to move forward with my family. Background on my family is that it's been pretty idyllic. My folks have always gotten on well, are strong communicators, parented myself and my younger siblings as a team, and were very good parents. My teenage years were a rough patch in my relationship with my father, but since I left for college at 18, we really began getting along. When I pictured a strong marriage, I pictured my parents, bar none. The other day it all came crashing down. This entire story takes place over roughly an hour. I received a Facebook message request from a stranger. I've been trying to fill an empty spot in my apartment, so I was in the habit of accepting these requests and figured it was someone interested in the room. The initial messages were odd. However, broken English, small talk, no mention of an apartment. I then figured it was a scam of some sort, so I of course kept messaging the woman to see where it went and waste their time. Then she made a comment about my sister and said that her boyfriend talks about me and my sister all the time. I asked who her boyfriend was. She replied, your dad. He doesn't talk about me. At this point, I assumed I was being blackmailed or scammed. My father's career led him to a very high-profile corporate job with a massive international company, so it was definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Certainly my father wasn't cheating on my mother. Then she sent photos, one of those tri-frame Instagram photos. Her on a beach with a man who was no doubt my father. Selfies with arms around each other, one of her kissing him on the cheek. I thought, okay, this could be real. Or that it could be some younger female co-worker who's just overly affectionate and dad indulged her in a selfie. This scammer found it and is using it. Around this time I started getting unprompted, unrelated texts from my father. How are you? How are things going? Etc. Odd timing, right? Thinking on my feet, I took a new approach. When she asked again if my father had mentioned his girlfriend to me, I quickly responded, yes, of course, sorry. I just wasn't sure which one you were. My thinking was that if this was a scam, saying my father was routinely unfaithful to my mother and dated multiple women at once removed their leverage. If this was real, then I'd throw a wrench in my dad's affair and force the truth out. Oh boy, did I get what I bargained for. The woman freaked out, frantic questions about who this made-up other woman was. I answered them all and concocted a story about a woman I'd met just a few months prior, who was from country my father works in regularly, made up a name, said my father had been dating women on the side for years, etc. She bought it entirely. The woman asked to speak on the phone, so I obliged. At this point, I realized this was real. The woman was in hysterics, sobbing about how she thought my father loved her. How could he do this? So on and so forth. I kept playing it cool and acted sympathetically, spinning fiction that my father had been a player for years and that he was usually upfront with his girlfriends about seeing other women, and that I was so sorry she had to hear it from me. Just let me learn who she was and how long the affair had been going on. Then she asked if I'd be willing to be on a three-way call with her and my father, without his knowledge. I immediately said yes. Within 60 seconds I was muted on a three-way call, listening to my father console this strange woman. who I had fully convinced that she was one of many side chicks, and explained to her that I was attempting to sabotage their relationship because of what I'd just learned. He didn't know that his father was cheating on his mother. He didn't know that his parents are getting a divorce, and now he's just learned that from a stranger, he explained. At this point, I hopped on the call and let him know that actually I'd learned about the divorce from him, since his insecure bitch of a girlfriend hadn't said anything about the divorce yet. He said, "Oh Christ," and I left the call. I called my mother immediately afterwards to figure out what was going on. She let me know that the two of them had been going through the early stages of a divorce for several months, that it was amicable, and they both thought it best, and had plans to tell all three of us once things were more finalized. She said that she only learned of the affair, however, a few days prior to this incident. The following morning, after a lengthy and heated discussion with my parents, I sent an email to both of them outlining why I was so hurt by this. I don't care about them getting divorced. I trust them to do it kindly and amicably, and they both seem intent on doing it that way as well. I did care about this insane woman thinking it was okay to contact me, my father probing me once he realized that I'd been contacted by his girlfriend, my father consoling his girlfriend of up to 3 months instead of contacting me once he realized that I knew about the affair, my father carrying on an affair and endangering his wife and children rather than just waiting until after the separation. Ultimately, I told my father not to contact me until I had reconciled what kind of relationship I want to have with him at this point. Here's where I need advice. I feel guilty about what I did. I immediately, ruthlessly, and effectively destroyed the relationship that my father had with this woman, who for her part at least seemed to really love him and feel loved by him. She is now convinced that he was cheating on her too. While it's obviously my dad's own fault for starting this relationship in secret while he was still with my mother, I still wonder if I've destroyed something that could have been really good for my dad. I'm also kind of shocked at myself for being able and willing to manipulate people like that. I also don't know where to go from here. I'm absolutely disgusted by my father and have lost a lot of respect for him. I'm not the one being cheated on, but I definitely feel like I've been put second fiddle to his girlfriend of 3 months. The damage control should have been with his son, not his mistress, right? Even so, I love my father and have been building a wonderful relationship with him over the last 4 to 6 years especially. I don't want to throw that all away. I can't figure out in my head what it is I want him to say or do that will allow me to forgive him. I would love any thoughts on my behavior in this situation or how I can reconcile my love for my dad with this absolute loss of respect I have for him. So, as always, there were some questions in the comments. Yensid7 says, "I'm a little confused by these timelines. You said your father was with this new woman for a few months. You said your mother said they've been planning for a divorce for a few months. It sounds like their relationship is already done. Do you know whether your father's new relationship started after they agreed to a divorce, or after they had already ended it? The reason I'm asking is because a divorce is just a legal proceeding to dissolve the marriage. Once they've agreed to the divorce, the relationship is done. Calling it an affair if it started after the previous relationship ended seems like a stretch. The timeline of a marriage and a relationship are usually not the same. A relationship usually begins well before a marriage and ends well before a divorce. It'd be like saying an affair isn't an affair if the couple is only engaged and not yet married. While it's not very classy to start a new relationship that quickly, if he did, I could see why he wouldn't tell your mum, knowing it'd probably hurt her to move on so quickly. Though in the case of a divorce after a long marriage, at least one of the two parties, many times both if an amicable divorce, usually has been done in their mind long before it got to the point of starting divorce proceedings." Opie quotes a section of that and says, "After speaking with my parents, individually and together, I've learned that the affair was happening before talk/separation had started. My folks have also still not yet engaged in any legal proceedings, just discussions with each other and their pastor. My mum also did not learn of the affair until nearly 3 months after it had started." Then quotes about it being just a legal proceeding to dissolve the marriage and says, "Now, I did not know this at the time I made my decisions, but in the aftermath I've confirmed that it did indeed begin before the marriage had ended by any definition. The timing was indeed close." UBT says to the OP, "I can see both sides honestly. He did something that completely broke your trust. kept it secret, and consoled someone who's a complete stranger to you as you learned of divorce from his own mouth. Meanwhile, you kinda walked right into that last one by accepting a three-way call, then went nuclear. Understand that emotion can completely sweep people away, especially something big like affairs and divorce. But you are 25 years old. Silent three-way calls are high school tier. If you want to fix this, reach out to your mum and talk it out with her first. Then reach out to your dad when you've got a better idea about what's going on. Explain to the both of them that they should not have lied and hid this from you, and that this random woman contacting you hit you like a damn wrecking ball. You shouldn't be surprised about how it played out. Your dad could have handled this whole thing way better, but then again, you could have as well. OP quoted it about being high school tier and then says, well sure, but again, I took this approach to confirm what was happening. At this point, I was not fully sure it wasn't a scam. Revealing myself on the call was absolutely an emotionally driven decision though. Definitely not my most mature moment. My other point is that my dad clearly knew that I knew what was up before he accepted the call from his girlfriend, since he was sending me roundabout probing messages. I think that his response should have been to ignore his affair partner and contact me immediately and directly to explain the situation, especially since my mum was already aware of the whole thing. I learned later. Then quoted saying if you want to fix this, and then says, already taken these steps. I'm trying to figure out how to move forward from here. I don't want to lose my relationship with my father, but I'm struggling to see how I can forgive him for the deception and disrespect. It just sounded like the dad in the situation created this absolute train wreck by just lying to everyone, you, your mum, and it sounded like his girlfriend who thought she was dating a separated man. And it sounds like you were thrown into a pretty intense situation. I mean, manipulation was there, absolutely. I kind of just feel like the father created this whole mess himself. But at some point later, OP comes back in with an update and says wanted to post an update since the OP got a decent amount of attention and the advice was really helpful. Firstly, thanks to everyone who commented. I got some really reassuring advice, some challenging points of view that helped me be more introspective, and some rather flattering remarks about my quick thinking. You all really helped me feel in control and added some context to my perspective, so thank you. Since my post, a few things have happened. My parents spoke as a pair to each of our family members individually, my siblings, but also my aunts and uncles, grandparents, etc., to let them know about the divorce, the affair, and about what went down between me and my father and this other woman. My family is pretty universally upset with my father. Not that I want everyone hating on him, but he did, at best, screw up royally. And it's good to know that no one is choosing teams instead of acknowledging who did wrong. My parents have both blocked this other woman from all phone lines and social media, etc. This is part of why the rest of the family was notified, so that they'd be aware if this woman tried to make contact. After the above, we learned that this woman had attempted to contact my 17-year-old sister 24 hours before the events of my OP. My sister missed the messages and didn't see them until after everything happened and was out in the open. Still not speaking with my father, but I've talked with other family about what's going on. As for how I'm feeling about the situation, any guilt that I had for what I did vanished the second that I learned that this woman tried to contact my sister first. While my response was to tear this whole thing apart as quickly and effectively as I could, I cannot imagine what my poor sister would have gone through if she had contact with this woman. I'm livid that she thought this was even remotely appropriate, and I'm livid that my father at any point thought this was a safe or stable person to involve himself with. Therefore, I don't feel even a bit guilty about what I did any longer. I'm staying in no contact with my father until I sort through what I want to hear from him, and seeking counseling to talk through how my anger in this moment / at the situation is undoubtedly linked in all sorts of messy ways to my upbringing, etc. Crazy how hard it is to find an LPC with a up to 3-month waiting list, but I'll get there. Thanks again for the great comments on my OP. It really helped me judge which of my feelings were valid, and where I needed to cut myself a break. I think I'm in a better place now, but of course would love to hear any further advice / similar stories that you all think might be helpful, or answer questions. Cheers. And the commenter just says to OP, interesting to hear how things shook out with your sister. All that anger and protectiveness that you instantly felt when you found out that she tried to get to her. You deserved that as well, man. The fact that she tried to reach out to any of his children regardless of their age is disgusting. Opie says, yeah, it really changed my perspective on things. Another reason I'm glad I've taken some time to myself rather than hashing things out with my father right away, because this will definitely be a part of that conversation. And myself and other people were like, what was that woman after in like trying to contact OP and the sister? Was she like just setting herself up basically to be that mother? Teapot Scandal left their own little story saying, my dad's mistress did the same to me. Actually, this entire thread is strikingly similar. For me, it felt like my dad's mistress wanted to gain control. She tried to build a relationship and legitimize herself in my dad's life by reaching out to me and my sisters. She seemed to think she could ingratiate us to her over our mother and tell us what a good relationship they had and how much they loved each other, so therefore I should support them. But she was also batshit insane, so it might just be that she likes chaos and wanted to hurt my mum. But what do you guys think that she was after? Was she after that? Was she trying to like just establish her position within the family? Was she after something else? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from Waffles Are Forever, great name, titled, Cheat on me with my best friend, I'll wreck your career and publicly humiliate both of you. Shithead and Sarah have been like family to my wife and I for several years, practically ever since we moved across the street from them. The four of us were extremely tight. Our kids are the same age as theirs and we are all good friends. We were one big family unit. We did dinner together a few times a week. We went on vacations together. I truly saw Shithead as a brother and my wife and Sarah were very close too. 5 months ago, I was completely blindsided by the discovery of an affair between my wife and Shithead. My wife had left her email open on our computer, and I saw an email from her to a longtime therapist saying that Shithead would be joining her at an upcoming session. Again. What the fuck? My mind started racing. Why in the world would Shithead be going to her therapy sessions without my knowledge? I did a search and found some other emails too, and from the therapist proving that Shithead had been going to sessions together with her for about 6 weeks. I checked our mobile phone account and discovered that, since late summer, they had been exchanging hundreds of texts every day, peaking at nearly 500 per day by the holidays. Speaking of the holidays, my wife and I hosted both of our families, parents, siblings, etc. for both Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner, and Shithead and Sarah joined us either for dinner or after dinner on both holidays. Text records show that the entire time that they were at our house celebrating with our families, my wife and Shithead were texting each other across the room. They were doing that pretty much every time the four of us hung out, for months. And you know, all day, every day, just in general. But what bothers me the most is the way they were doing it with Sarah and I right there. I confronted my wife with the evidence and she admitted that yes, she and Shithead had fallen in love. It just happened, I don't know how. But I love him and I just don't feel anything for you anymore. I'm sorry. They had gone on a school district trip together. Something had happened in her hotel room and things had moved quickly from there. She explained as I laid face down on the couch, unable to look at her, that they had already made plans to move out and divorce me and Sarah. And while they didn't plan to move in together immediately because of the kids, they'd probably do so eventually. The meetings with a therapist were supposedly mostly for the purpose of finding a way to break this to me and Sarah as gently as possible, because they were so very concerned for our well-being. Sarah and I are fairly certain that they weren't planning on telling us about the affair at all, and were simply going to discover their feelings for one another several months down the line, after they'd come up with some other reason to divorce the two of us. My wife moved out 2 months ago. I was and still am utterly destroyed. I cry every day. I cried writing the first few paragraphs of the story just now. I worry non-stop about the impact on our kids, but I am not exactly a shrinking violet when I feel that I've been wronged, and in this case I was objectively very, very wronged. So, a couple of years ago, Shithead ran for a Board of Education seat as a pretty extreme underdog. I helped him with his campaign materials and debate prep, and my wife, a well-known school district employee, this becomes important later, got the word out as best as she could. Much to our surprise, he actually won in a squeaker. by just a few dozen votes. Being on the board became the center of Shithead's world. He joined every committee that he could. This turned into the foundation of his affair with my wife, as they were constantly going to school events and meetings together on evenings and weekends. Once I discovered the affair, my thoughts turned pretty quickly to revenge, and it occurred to me that an extramarital affair between a member of the Board of Education and an employee of the school district was at least bad politics and possibly violated district policy. Making things far worse for them was that my wife was in the running for an open administrative position, and everyone knew that she was more or less guaranteed the job and the major pay rise that came with it. She had just finished a master's degree in school administration at the urging of her principal and the superintendent, so that she could be promoted to this specific position. I had plenty of evidence of the affair, texts from both of them admitting to it, text records showing that they were texting hundreds of times a day, emails to and from the therapist, etc. I considered simply emailing all the evidence to the board and the superintendent, but I felt like I, as the grieved and betrayed spouse, might not be seen as a credible source. So instead, I invented a fictitious, furious friend, who was planning on showing up to the next board meeting and publicly shaming the two of them for their affair. I told my wife that I tried to talk this person down, but couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't show up and humiliate them publicly. As I expected, this led Shithead to conclude that the only option was for him to preemptively admit the affair to the board. The superintendent subsequently recommended that Shithead resign, which he did. Sarah said that he was utterly humiliated and crushed, and barely got out of bed for a few days afterwards. Once word of the affair and Shithead's resignation started getting around, the superintendent, a longtime friend of both my wife and Shithead, contacted my wife and tearfully informed her that it was no longer politically appropriate for her to be promoted to an administrative position within the district. The position that had been lined up for her was later filled by an outside candidate. This sent waves of confusion and rumor throughout the district, as it was pretty well known that my wife was getting the job. The day after she was informed that she wasn't getting the promotion, my wife and I, despite our crumbling marriage, took our son to breakfast together on his birthday, and her parents stopped by our table to congratulate her on her new role. She said thanks and excused herself to go cry in the bathroom for a while. I let the dust settle for a couple of weeks, and then, right before my wife moved out, let them in on my little secret. It was never a furious friend threatening to expose them in the first place. Just me. Word of all this has gotten around our fairly small town, which Shithead grew up in, and my wife has worked in for nearly 20 years. My wife refuses to talk to me about how things are at work now, but I've heard from some people I know in the district that her formerly spotless reputation has taken a major hit. Shithead, formerly a gregarious social presence in our neighborhood and at events and pubs in town, has completely gone underground and barely emerges to mow his lawn. He's moving out soon to a shitty little townhouse, which is all he can afford due to all the child support he's going to have to pay his wife. My wife and Shithead claim that they plan on trying to make things work together, despite all the public humiliation. I wish them lots of luck with that. I'm sure it will be a lot of fun to show their faces together in town. Then OP did share a log of the text messages, but unfortunately that's disappeared since this story. However, OP did start to answer some common questions that was going on. So someone asked, "Are you and Sarah a thing now? You should totally be a thing. That would be awesome." OP responded saying, "No, we're friends. We've been incredibly important to each other since this all started and have certainly gotten a lot closer, but not in the way that everyone's thinking. This would be all so much harder to deal with if I didn't have her to lean on. And she says she feels the same way about me. We're going through basically the exact same situation with the same players after all. Shithead hasn't moved out yet. Once he does, we plan to go back to getting the kids together more often like they used to. It'll never be the same, of course. She already does come over with the kids from time to time, but it's just tough with Shithead's constant presence across the street." Someone asked, "Didn't your revenge hurt both sets of kids?" OP responded, "Not really. Shithead has a day job. The Board of Education was his hobby and his passion, but this didn't affect his income at all. And my wife has been assured that if she wants to pursue an administrative position with another district, she'll have glowing letters of recommendation from her superintendent and principal. It'll mean giving up a lot of work relationships in the process, but given the hit her reputation has taken, I'm guessing she makes that jump sooner rather than later. In the meantime, not moving to an administrative job means that she still has summers off with the kids. Someone asked OP, why do you call her your wife instead of your former wife? OP responds saying, we're working our way through divorce mediation, but it isn't final yet. Will be soon. Someone asks, why didn't you notice all the texting your wife was doing? OP responded saying, well, I did. It was really starting to piss me off. It was excessive. She has a big social circle and does tend to text a lot anyway. But it was really getting over the top, to the point where she was completely ignoring me and the kids. At one point in November, I asked her to agree to a no phones at the dinner table rule, which she agreed to reluctantly, but then would pout through dinner. And eventually she started using her phone during dinner again. All that said, I was blind. Not only was the texting getting weird, but her relationship with Shithead was starting to make me uncomfortable. Sarah noticed it too and agreed. We confronted them a couple of times about it directly, and they both swore up and down that it was just school stuff they were talking about. There was nothing else going on, and for whatever reason, we believed them. Probably because the mind tends to refuse to see things that it doesn't want to see. Then OP continues saying, thanks by the way, for all the support in the comments. I couldn't reply to everyone, but I did read them all, and I appreciate them. Even the brutally honest feedback from people who feel that I did the wrong thing. Posting this and reading all the responses introduced me to perspectives I hadn't considered about all of this, and reminded me most of all the anguish I'm dealing with is pretty normal given the situation I'm going through. I had a pretty okay Memorial Day weekend, even though I missed my wife and thought a lot about the things we're probably doing as a family. I'm taking my kids camping next weekend, and having something like that to look forward to and plan has me feeling pretty good today. Then OP does have an update, 4 years later. So OP comes in with her update which says, I've been getting a surprising number of requests to post an update to this story. I guess it blew up a bit on TikTok, which I don't use. Where to start? It's been a bizarre few years, especially with COVID thrown in the mix, which I somehow still have never caught, despite my kids getting it twice each. Thankfully, just mild cases. Well, at the time that I posted the original story, I was obviously a wreck. Things actually got significantly darker for a while after that. My ex decided to start bringing Shithead around our kids just a few months after she moved out, which was really hard for me to deal with. I'd never really dealt with serious depression before, but things got bad enough that my doctor more or less forced me to start on an antidepressant, because I admitted to him that I was thinking about suicide pretty frequently. I think this is where I should mention, trigger warning for the rest of this paragraph. I had a very specific plan and everything I needed to do it. The one thing that gave me any kind of relief was telling myself that if life got any more unbearable, I had a way out. So yeah, shit got bad. But I'm still here, and thankfully, I don't think about that option anymore. I reluctantly decided to dip my toe into the online dating world, and after a number of short-term things that didn't pan out, I actually connected with someone. We have been together for 2 years next month. She's absolutely amazing. We don't live together, and for the time being, we're both good with seeing each other a few times a week. Would I love to see her more? Yep. Am I ready to live with someone again and go all Brady Bunch with our respective kids? I'm not sure. For the time being, we have a lot of fun together, and that's more than good enough for me. As far as things stand with my ex and Shithead, they're still together, but there seems to be trouble in paradise because my kids report that they almost never see him anymore. My kids don't like him at all, and they just avoid him when he's around, according to my older one. When all of this started, she had seemed confident that they'd be living together pretty soon, but they still don't, and as far as I know, there are no plans in the works for that. They did buy a boat together, which I find hilarious for some reason. It just seems like the classic affair couple thing to do. Sarah took a long time to accept that her marriage was truly over, but once she did, she really did an admirable job of moving on. She engrossed herself in home improvement projects. She remains the same incredible mum that she's always been. And she's been in a friend with benefits type relationship, which is all she wants right now, with a nice, funny guy for almost 2 years. We hang out here and there, especially when my pool is open in the summer. We aren't nearly as dependent on each other as we were in the beginning, but we're still close friends. And no, still nothing more than that. Which I'm glad about because the one thing the situation definitely never needed was more drama. My ex left the school district she was looking for and took a job in a neighboring district. I have no idea what Shithead is up to, nor do I care. I hardly ever see him except at the occasional school event. For a while there, I was worried that he'd look at me the wrong way and I'd wind up in jail for knocking him out in an elementary school cafeteria or something, but I just don't care enough about him anymore for that to be a concern. So, all in all, life is pretty okay right now. I do miss being a family. I still have nightmares about all this stuff and deal with intrusive thoughts at times. I fall asleep to audiobooks now to keep those thoughts at bay. Otherwise, I still struggle to sleep sometimes. But my girlfriend is amazing. I have an incredibly supportive family. I just officiated my sister's wedding a couple of months ago, and I have a big dog who needs a lot of walks, and that's a huge help for me on so many levels. I hope that update answered people's questions. Thanks again for all of the support. Edit with dog tags. And I know OP initially got some revenge in the first part of their story, but in their new update where they said they've moved on with their lives, obviously they're still going through a lot of stuff, and I'm really sorry to hear that, but that they moved on with their lives, they got a girlfriend, and things are moving on quite comfortably at the moment. It always brings into my head about moving on, living a good life, and enjoying your life is the best form of revenge, and I really hope it continues for OP going forward, especially with Waffles Are Forever. What a name. Anyway, what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Our next story comes from Vast Basis 2273, and it says, "Am I the arsehole for hiding the location of my best friend from my wife? About 5 years ago, I moved about 15 hours away from my hometown for a job. Shortly after moving, I met my now wife, Becca. A few years ago, I had a buddy, JR, from back home come stay with me. While here, he met my wife's sister, Maggie. JR and Maggie hit it off. They pretty quickly started dating. Maggie has a daughter from a previous relationship. Daughter's dad is very much in the picture. Almost a year ago, Maggie and JR moved in together. At the time, Maggie was living with her parents because she could not afford rent on her own. Things seemed to be going well. It is a long story, but almost 2 years ago, JR got pretty irrefutable proof that Maggie was cheating on him. He was angry, depressed, and overall distraught. He could not deal with confronting her, but he could also not deal with living with her. He talked to me and wanted my help to get away. So I reached out to my network of people, who are not mutual friends of Becca and I, to get him a place to stay. Becca, Maggie, Maggie's daughter, and my mother-in-law were going out of town to visit mother-in-law's mum a few weeks after he found out. I had a work friend with a rent house. I helped JR pack his stuff, which was like 90% of the apartment, and he moved out. He sent an email to Maggie about why he moved out. He left a check for rent and utilities through the end of March when their lease is up, and informed the landlord that he was not renewing. Maggie got the email and called JR numerous times while on the trip. My wife called me and asked what was going on and where was JR. I told her that JR moved out and he was safe, but I will not tell her where he is. They got back and Maggie flipped out about all the stuff JR took. My wife was quite angry and demanded to know where JR was. I kept telling her that he is safe, but I'm not telling her where he is. The last month has been tense, and my wife has begged and made threats to know where JR is. She has even tried using my phone to impersonate me to call JR and get information. I've since changed my password. She says we are married. This is affecting my family. I deserve to know. I refuse. She has even talked about this being divorceable. Am I the arsehole? Edits, my wife knows why JR left. 2. Maggie has admitted since he left that she was cheating. 3. My wife denies knowing about the cheating and I do believe her. Historically, Maggie and Becca are not close. Prior to JR moving here, we would see Maggie maybe once every 3-ish months. Since JR moved, we see her a lot more because JR and I regularly organize get-togethers, which is why my wife's reaction is surprising to me. 4. The stuff JR took was only his stuff. In fact, a lot of stuff he left is also his stuff. Other than gadgets, he left all the kitchen stuff despite it being 100% his. He left all the stuff in my niece's room, even though he paid for a lot of it. Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation, and the behavior from your wife in this is sketchy at the least in my opinion. You know, threatening behavior, trying to use your phone to impersonate you. The fact that she's escalating this to divorceable territory It kind of feels like there's more going on here than just a concern for her sister. And I think you should absolutely stand your ground on this. Your friend deserves the protection during this time. He was cheated on. He was the one that was wronged. But Defy says, not the arsehole. What does your wife have to say about her sister cheating on your friend? New comment says, not the arsehole. Maggie has made her bed and she can lay in it. At least until the eviction notice rolls around. The fact that your wife has a bigger problem with JR leaving Maggie than she does with her sister cheating on JR says an awful lot about your wife. And as a woman myself, it doesn't say anything good. If your wife chooses to implode your marriage because her sister is a cheater, that is on her. You don't owe Maggie anything. Cat Jarman's Pan says, I'm interested in why your wife / Maggie needs to know where JR lives. They've broken up. It's over. That's it. As ever, the best way to see how you feel about a situation is to turn it around and look at it from other angles. Let's say it was Maggie who moved out with your wife's help. She's ended the relationship and doesn't want JR to know where she lives now. Now, can we imagine the response if you were pressuring your wife to tell you, and presumably JR, where she was living? Yeah, that would be a big fat get the fuck out motherfucker. You've got several options. Ask your wife if the situations were reversed, how would she feel about your pressuring her to give JR Maggie's address? Tell her that JR has moved again, and that he has deliberately not told you his new address because he knows your wife is trying to give that information to Maggie. I'll be honest, I think that you're learning some really unpleasant things about your wife. Attitudes to cheating, attitudes towards domestic violence, attitudes towards your autonomy. I'd be very tempted to see if JR has a spare bedroom you can stay in. Not the arsehole. Viking with a hobble says, you want to divorce me because your sister cheated on my best friend. Let that one ride next time she says something about divorce. Just let that sit in the air for a moment or two. Fit or Fat says, not the arsehole. Doesn't the reason JR left matter to your wife? Apparently not. Yes, it's affecting her sister, but mostly financially. If she's not working, she does need to find a job, and maybe move back with her parents until she can find another place to live. JR and Maggie weren't married, so no divorce. Maggie and your wife just want to harangue the poor dude or guilt trip him into giving Maggie money. F that. And if your wife thinks divorcing you will solve her cheating sister's problems, she has another thing coming. And one more comment from Strange Name, who says the fact that your wife thinks this is divorceable is in and of itself divorceable, and that she took your phone and impersonated you. That's probably illegal in some way or another. You guys need a marriage counselor, and would love to be present for that one. The look on the therapist's face will be priceless. I like the other poster's suggestion to ask Becca how she would feel with the parts reversed. Regardless, this is nuts. Her sister had a relationship with your friend and she cheated on him, so he left, and your wife wants to track him down. And if you don't tell her where he is, she might divorce you over it. Read that again, out loud. OP comes in to update the post and says, weeks after the post, Becca let slip that I knew where JR is located. This caused a slew of harassment from Maggie and my mother-in-law. I refused to tell them where he is. Some choice words were exchanged between Maggie and I, and I told her she is not allowed in my house until she apologizes. She refuses, so I've not seen her or my in-laws in about a month. Since the end of March, Maggie has been living again with my in-laws. Becca tried to get me to agree to let Maggie and my niece move in, but I refused based on the conflict I have with Maggie and Becca's behavior the last couple of months. Becca explained to me why she'd been behaving this way. She has the last couple of months. Maggie's ex has said that if Maggie moves back in with my in-laws, he's going to go for full custody of my niece. The neighborhood where the in-laws live is rough, and there is a fair bit of conflict between Maggie and my father-in-law. Since moving back in, my niece's dad's lawyer has reached out and indicated they're going for full custody. Becca is blaming me and JR for this. She is convinced that if they knew he was leaving, they could work something out to keep them together, or at least keep Maggie in the apartment. I do not think that is the case at all. JR is still processing things, but was willing now to speak to Maggie. So he reached out a couple of weeks ago. This past weekend, Maggie and JR spoke via FaceTime. Maggie wanted an in-person meeting, but JR absolutely refused. Maggie apologized and tried to get JR to reconsider for my daughter. JR refused. Maggie had an emotional outburst and JR hung up on her. There is no plan for him to speak to her again. And I think JR handled that pretty well. He sort of maintained distance, well, letting her talk when he didn't have to in the first place. And as soon as she tried the manipulation, he hung up on her. Absolutely the right thing to do. But I think now the spotlight turns back to your wife because her behavior is still massively concerning. The fact that she's still thrown you under the bus, putting the blame towards you, the whole "we could have worked something out" argument from your wife is just pure fantasy. What did she think was going to happen? That JR was just going to forgive the cheating and keep financially supporting someone who betrayed him? And as sad as the custody situation is, it's not on you or JR. Maggie made all those choices in the end, but again, wife's behavior, I don't know where you go with that, but I'm certainly side-eyeing her at the situation. The top comment on that update said, "Your wife is delusional. Do not let Maggie move in. She will never move out." Dimpled by Leah says, "Not the arsehole, and honestly, you've been the only adult in this situation. Becca blaming you and JR for Maggie's custody issues is wild. Considering Maggie's own choices blew up her life, JR owes her nothing, and the fact that she tried to emotionally manipulate him for your daughter is so gross. Like, your daughter deserves love, not guilt-leveraged relationships. You set boundaries, stuck to them, and protected someone who needed space to heal. That's not betrayal. That's loyalty with a spine." And one final comment from Sky Blue, who says, "Oh no, she fucked around and found out. Oh no, the consequences of her actions are catching up with her. Oh no, how dare people not see that she is the victim. Oh no." Listen, OP, your wife is the problem here now. The fact that she is still supporting her sister and things are not her fault speaks louder than anything else. I would be wary here. Communicate this with her. Explain to her that the situation her sister found herself in is all her fault. If your wife doesn't see it and/or tries to make excuses, I would leave, because she is approving cheating, not the arsehole. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from True Off My Chest subreddit, saying, from I Throw 'em Away, and says, "I, female 23, found out 7 months ago that my boyfriend, male 26, has been cheating on me, but I haven't told him I know. I found out while he was away for work. A girl he slept with sent me a DM on Instagram. She told me everything and even sent pictures. I remember staring at my screen, my heart pounding, my hands shaking. I felt like my entire world had just shattered. I didn't even respond. I just sat there, drowning in pain. I finally understood what he meant to have a dagger to the heart. Anyways, I made a decision I wouldn't confront him. Instead, I grieved and mourned our relationship like it had already died. I'd been with him for 3 years. I thought everything was going perfect. I didn't see this coming at all. That entire week, I was alone, cycling through every emotion imaginable. And this might sound crazy, but there was a part of me that almost needed to feel the pain, like I was clinging to it, letting it consume me. And this may sound emo, but it felt good. I can't explain it, but I felt alive. Maybe this is borderline masochistic, but whatever. This is how I wanted to cope. Meanwhile, the girl kept messaging me. More pictures, more details, receipts, lol, and even videos. It just got worse and worse, until it turned into taunts and cursing. It felt like she was desperate for us to break up, but I never responded. Instead, I kept reading her messages over and over, torturing myself with the truth until at some point, it didn't hurt anymore, and I started to feel numb. He was still himself, sweet and caring and affectionate. Like, honestly, I wouldn't have suspected a thing if that girl didn't DM me. He would sometimes catch on I'm acting off, and I'd blame my hormones or stress from work, and he would buy it. I pretended everything was fine, and he would have noticed something was deeply wrong if he wasn't busy cheating. I think it also helped we got along very well as roommates and friends. We were still having sex. He was a generous lover, too generous even, and it helped bear with it all. I lied, saying my implant fell out, so we began using condoms, and I got myself tested regularly. Thankfully, I was clean the whole time. I eventually started seeing him as someone I lived with, and we just happened to have sex. It took months, but one day something inside me shifted. Like the love I had for him started fading. I went through every stage of grief. Now I feel free and lighter. I know I can live without him, and that realization is the most liberating feeling. This is the craziest part. Everything I once found beautiful about him started to look distorted. I started to see his flaws. It was like I was under a spell, adoring and loving this man, and now I look at him and like, how? This week, I'm moving into my own place and I'm finally breaking up with him. I'm mentally checked out and I'm at peace with myself. I'm okay. I feel a sense of dread but also relief that I will finally break up with him. It took 7 months to finally get over him. I don't know if I tell him that I know he cheated on me, or just say I don't want you anymore, or just ghost him. All I know is I'm breaking up with him. Wow, it's hard to imagine someone doing that, staying in this relationship for 7 months whilst knowing he's cheating. But I could understand why you would have done this at the same time, grieving the relationship while still in it, and just dealing with it that was in the best way for you at the time. It took a while, sure, but you got there. And for the way that you deal with it now, it would be totally up to you. You know, petty me would want him to know the full truth in some horrible way. But, you know, I know life's not always like that. But medium-sized Maze says you should absolutely tell him you know he cheated. He shouldn't be absolved. Ghost him and leave the screenshots, but at least let him know that you know he's a piece of shit. Opie says I have a private folder on my phone with everything I saved. I was just using it to keep my feelings in check. This is a good idea. Akimbo Slice 1 says, at first I thought you went about it wrong, but you took your time to build your strength and heal. I guess we each have our own journey. That being said, please ghost him and give him no closure. That will mentally mess him up for his betrayal for years to come. Opie says my initial goal wasn't to heal, but to feel. I didn't know what I was doing. I ended up healing anyway, and I'm glad it worked out. If I ghosted, it would definitely mess him up. Besides the relationship, we were best friends. Strike Excellent says, this is what my psychologist recommends. Feel it and then let it go. I also think that ghosting is the way to go. If you tell him that you know about the cheating, he will get better at hiding it from the next girl or even blame it on the girl who DM'd you. Ghosting without an explanation will make it easier for you. You don't need to explain. You don't need to waste your time listening to how he would change or that it was a mistake, etc. If you don't give him a reason that he can challenge, it will be better for you. You did the work. You deserve your peace. You owe him nothing. He deserves nothing from you. The opposite of love is indifference. Good for you. By the way, well done, OP. OP says I've been dealing with this alone for so long, mentally sifting through my thoughts, feeling the pain so deeply. It was therapeutic. I was at rock bottom for a while, and the only way out was up. I am mentally in a better place. I'm starting to enjoy the little things again. I can finally breathe. The way I dealt with this was definitely unconventional. Thankfully, I now do feel indifferent. I'm free. And thank you for your kind words. I do deserve peace. So OP did come back into the post with their update and says I finally moved out in the early morning, right after he left for work. It was his place and I didn't have much to begin with, so the move was easy. I've been slowly filling up my new place over the past month, getting everything ready so I could leave without a hassle. A lot of you suggested I ghost him, but I couldn't. That's just not me. I don't like disappearing on people, even when they deserve it. So instead, I came back that evening and waited for him to get home from work around 7 p.m. I was nervous, but also kind of relieved for it all to finally be over. When he walked in, I was sitting at the dining table wearing my coat. He immediately sensed something was off. He asked me where I was going, and I told him home. He laughed and said, "But you are home." Clearly trying to play it off, but he could tell something was up. Then I sent everything I've been collecting, screenshots, videos, all of it to his WhatsApp. He looked confused and asked why I was texting him. And then he opened the messages. I watched the color drain from his face. I didn't think I'd enjoy it, but I did. He went pale, breathing heavily, and just placed his phone on the table, staring at me like I was a ghost. I didn't say anything, just watching him. Then came the begging. He grabbed my hand, apologizing over and over, and said he didn't mean to cheat, claimed he ended it 3 months ago, that she meant nothing, and how much he loves me and wants to marry me. I told him we're never getting married, it's over, and I didn't say anything else. That's when he broke down crying like a child. I was honestly disgusted. I stood there watching him on his knees, clutching my legs, begging for forgiveness. And I felt nothing. No sympathy, no sadness, just done. I was completely checked out. I didn't want to say much to him. I just felt numb and it felt pointless. Eventually, he turned into this emotional, sweaty, sobbing mess. When he went to the bathroom, I grabbed my last backpack and left. It's finally over. I'm grateful I don't love him anymore. It was an unconventional way to get over someone, but it worked for me. Thank you all for the kind messages. Edit, he texted me from a new number and sending me pathetic messages. I posted on my profile. The text message said, "I'm sorry for cheating on you, please call me. I miss you already. I didn't know she found you and texted you those videos. I am sorry, truly. I can't live without you, I love you so much. Please pick up the phone. You know you love me, you can't give up on us. You can't let this break us. I fucked up, I'm sorry. Please just talk to me. I can't breathe without you here. I swear, please don't do this to me. Our home feels so empty without you. Please call me. I'll do anything for you, baby. Please, just let me talk to you. You're breaking my heart, baby. Please, please call me. I'm going crazy. Please, please, please." And the top commenters on this one said, "That's really brave of you to actually do something about it and leave. But nobody deserves to be cheated on. That is the worst feeling. That kind of betrayal hurts deep. So I hope that you move on and find somebody that will be loyal to you. Good luck on your endeavors." Marmalade says, "Thanks for the follow-up. I'm impressed that you not only followed through, but that your response was measured, restrained, and decisive. You're better off without him. Don't look back." The last word says, "I hate it when they say she or he meant nothing to me. In reality, the one you cheated on and hurt meant nothing to you." And the last one from Suspicious Fan and says, "And not only he cheated for months, since he ended it 3 months ago." But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? And let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from Throwaway Cow Life from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit and says, "Am I the arsehole for losing my 27 female cool with my parents, 57 female, 59 male, for pushing me to forgive my cheating ex? I was to be married in July. 2 months ago, I came home from a work trip to find my ex-fiancé in bed with my BFF's sister. I kicked him out, cancelled the wedding, warned him I would get rid of his stuff if he didn't come get it all. Then weeks later, dumped it all on the curbside with a free sign. Sold or donated or dumped everything he gave me and pawned the ring. I blocked him everywhere. Called the cops on him when he showed up, after I gave his stuff away, banging on my door. Called them again when he turned up at my workplace and made a scene, and then called them on his family when they showed up en masse to plead his case. I didn't go scorched earth on my ex-BFF's sister. I didn't tell her husband I caught her in bed with my ex. Last I heard, she'd been kicked out of the house and was back living with her parents. Ex-BFF tried talking to me into giving them both a chance to explain. What? No. Then got angry at me for ruining her sister's relationship. Called me petty and cold-hearted. So I kicked her to the curb too. I don't want dishonest people that are blasé about betrayal in my life. This encounter no doubt simmered under my skin until I unleashed on my parents. Maybe that's the reason, because it lingered. I was so harsh with them. Last week, I met my parents for dinner. I took a date with me to the restaurant, hoping his being there would waylay any discussion about my failed engagement. My parents have been pressuring me to work things out with the ex. He's so sorry. I owe it to him to talk with him. Give him 5 minutes to explain himself. She meant nothing to him. He made a mistake. I'm cruel for shutting him out the way I have. How could I call the police on him? How could I do the same to his family, his parents? They're good people. They didn't deserve to be humiliated in that manner. He's having a rough time. He's depressed. Everybody is worried about him. He loves me, really loves me. He's learned his lesson. It's time to grow up and forgive him." No. My date's presence didn't stop them from bringing it all up again. I lost my cool. Asked my father if he expected me to give my ex a pass every time he sticks his dick into anything that moves, like he does. I asked my mother how turning a blind eye to her husband's infidelity works for her. How does she hold her head up while having lunch with women that have slept around with her husband for years? Is that the kind of men, the life she wants for me and my sister, for her daughters? I asked if they had any idea of the impact that knowledge had on me and my siblings growing up, knowing that dad was late home from work because he was screwing his secretary. Knowing work weekend was code for dirty weekend with a woman not our mother. Did they not know why it was that of their 4 children, I am the one that still talks to them? Did they not question why they were not invited to my brother's wedding? Why they have never met either of my brother's wives and children? Do they think my sister's silence is because she's being dramatic and throwing a tantrum? Really? I stood from the table, congratulated them on the loss of their last remaining child, and told them that I hoped their arrogance, willful blindness, and misery was a comfort to them to their last breaths. Then I left. My dates, I should have saved him for a proper date rather than an FU to my parents, took me to the nearest bar, let me cry on his shoulder while I proceeded to get shit-faced, then made sure I got home safely. The next day he messaged me to see if I was alive and sent a double cheeseburger, large fries, and a large Sprite over with DoorDash. I didn't block my parents, but I haven't heard from them. It's been a week and I've calmed down enough to feel regret. Not for what I said, but because I can see the looks on their faces when I made my final farewell. I crushed them, hurt them, especially my mother. Despite their faults, and there are many, I love my parents. I don't like knowing I hurt them. I'm feeling a lot of guilt about it. Am I the arsehole? Edit. I've yet to read all the comments, but from what I've seen so far, I think some details need to be cleared up. My date knew we were going to have dinner with my parents. He asked me out that morning. I told him my plans for the evening and jokingly asked if he wanted to come along. I didn't expect him to say yes. I then informed him that I wasn't serious, and anyway, it would probably be a little uncomfortable, and he said if needed, he could post bail. So there you go. He did not enter that restaurant unaware of potential drama. Edit 2. The people mentioned in my post are not the only people in my life. I have my siblings in my life. They didn't cut me off. My sister flew in to be with me just days after I discovered the cheating, and I have good friends. Friends who helped me pack up ex's things, helped me to move it all down to the curb. A friend that found me a guy that paid a fair price for the engagement ring. I only mention ex-BFF, etc. because how they acted and what they were saying contributed to all those buried feelings that had been dormant for years coming out when they did, in the way they did. Meh, I wouldn't feel guilty for your parents after this one. They met trying to get you back together with your ex who cheated on you. Family member came up to me and told me that they've been cheated on in that way, etc. I'll be like, yeah, cut that person out of your life. Do you want help packing shit up as well? But your new date sounds like a great guy, it's got to be said. I mean, obviously, always take it slow because it's fresh after cheating or all that kind of stuff. But holy moly, can you imagine being that guy in the restaurant on that date, just sat next to her and she's going off like this? I mean, oh, front row Dramaville. Then dude taking you to the bar afterwards, sending you a DoorDash the next day. What a bloody legend. Madge says something similar and says, well, the guy you're dating sounds like a gem. Hope he sticks around and it's not just a rebound for you. As for your parents, now they well and truly know exactly what you think. In the future, you can choose to forgive their behavior if they stop being jerks. And in the time you're not hearing from them, it may be because things are blowing up on their end. And your mother especially is thinking about her life without grandkids because of what else is happening in their lives. So don't take the silence as a problem. Gnomes in blanket says not the arsehole, but your parents weren't crushed by what you said. It was the truth that they know is behind those words, that they thought everyone rug swept just because they did. They didn't care about your feelings, so you had to lay them all out on the table. They should have listened to you the first time around. Not your fault they sided with a cheater over their daughter and made her and her date uncomfortable. They lacked tact, so you threw the same energy back. Also, your new guy sounds like a green flag so far. Baobab says not the arsehole. I grew up in dysfunction, and reading that speech made me want to bow down to you. Parents really think they can do anything and live their lives without consequences. You have nothing to feel guilty for. You let a light shine on your parents, and now they know what you actually think of them, and that they can't enable your cheating ex into your good graces. If anything, I hope they're quiet because they've told your ex it's a lost cause, that you're now no longer in their lives, and they're so busy in self-reflection that they can't fathom contacting you. And one more comment from Nancy who says not the arsehole, but maybe DoorDash an apology cookie cake to the date. He seems like he did excellent with the absolute disaster of a date. He's a good egg. Oh, I love it when people say good egg. Your parents suck. They owe you a sincere apology. I would only let them closer if they provide that unprompted. I doubt it since your siblings are no contact. It's a path you should seriously consider. Your ex, everyone should stay that way. You made the right choice and your ex-fiancé is beyond stupid. Sleeping with someone in your shared home is not a mistake. Next, get a therapist. Deal with your anger and losses. It will help. Also, I'm embarrassed to say I've never seen a cookie cake in real life. I'm sure they're around the UK, but I've never seen one. But anyway, OP updated their post and said, "It's been a minute since I was last here. Life has been busy, work has been busy, and updating Reddit wasn't on my mind. Apologies to all those that continue to send messages asking for an update. I figure better late than never." A quick recap. Lost my temper with my parents when they tried to push me to forgive and reconcile with my cheating ex. Some really hurtful and harsh truth was shared by me to them in the moment. Afterwards, I felt tremendous guilt. The regret started to eat at me. Where to start? First, a thank you to all who replied to my post. I tried to read every comment, and though I didn't post for validation most of you gave, receiving it did lighten the load a little bit. It didn't take away from the guilt I carried, but I was able to work through that to see that although my timing was off, what I said was absolutely necessary. Thank you too to some of those who sent me private messages rather than posting on the main thread. Having your own stories of similar upbringings conversing with you has helped me to understand that my childhood and teens were traumatic, that those left wounds that I'd never addressed until this all came about. One more shout out to those that sent harassing messages about my choices. Those people that preached about the sanctity of marriage and how men are basic creatures with basic needs. Those that attempted to school me in how to be a woman that needs to learn to do my duty by allowing a man his vices, and that it was really my fault for not supporting my ex in his time of need. Special shout out to the men that offered to teach me how to be submissive and learn my place in the world. And last but not least, the sweet little chicken nugget that told me my reaction was proof that I'm a serial cheater and my ex should have used a cattle prod on my happy place. It must have been tough for all of you when your women left. Big props to those ladies for escaping a life of misery with you. Man, some people are fucked up, aren't they? Gee whiz. Now for what has happened since. My mother left my father not long after my post. Maybe a couple of weeks after. She showed up at my apartment one night with her luggage. I can't explain how broken and pitiful she was. I brought her inside, held her, and my heart broke for her. I realized then that she had no one she could turn to. Absolutely no one. No family, no friends. I cannot help but wonder if she had been all alone for all the years of her marriage, and if me or one of my siblings had said something sooner. Would she have had the courage to leave my father then? I'd never seen my mother, usually so dignified and unruffled, look so broken. It shocked me to see her that way. It worried me so much that I made her sleep in my bed with me. I called my siblings, and within days they all came to show support and love. Then it was me, my mother, and my sister sleeping in my bed. It was good for her to see that her children still cared, because we did care. We did love her. It was the situation my siblings distanced themselves from. At first, my mother stayed with me. She was having a hard time of it. Years of humiliation, shame, and guilt ate at her. I was worried about her state of mind and didn't like to leave her alone. I couldn't take time off work to be with her every second of the day, so I took her to the shelter and we got her a dog. My thinking was if she had something to take care of, it would distract her from dark thoughts. I was hoping for a puppy because they're playful and would keep her busy. But she fell in love with a 5-year-old mixed breed, and he fell right back. He's a goof. We don't know how it happened, but we woke up one night to him howling because he had somehow wedged his head in between the spindles on the stairs. His whole head. We had to call the fire department to rescue him. Of course, my mother didn't think he was at fault, and now she refers to him as her baby. He adores my mother though. My oldest brother moved some things around, then moved her across the country to live with him and his family. He thought she would do better if there was no chance of her running into dad or one of his many women. He found her a therapist, and that seems to be working. She is loving being a grandmother, and all reports are that she is an indulgent one. She has a separate in-law suite so she gets to see them every day. My brother tells me that when the kids go missing, they can now be found at grandma's. My dad is my dad. He doesn't lack for company. I had a dinner with him not long after my mother moved across the country, where he introduced me to the new women in his life. I reminded them both that I knew exactly who she was, considering she called my mother her best friend for all my life. Cue another awkward dinner. My dad tried to make it as pleasant as he could, but whenever she spoke to me, I would bring up a memory from my childhood of her spending time with our family and asking if she was sleeping with my father all the way back then. The next day he called me to tell me how disappointed he was with me. I felt it only fair to share my own disappointments. We argued for a bit. He tried to downplay all he had done over the years, tried to play the victim of his own actions. I ended up cutting the conversation short and blocking him. It was just over a month ago when he showed up at my door. I wouldn't let him in, and I'm sure that rattled him some. He told me he didn't want to lose me too. Say what you want about him, but he is my dad. I love him. I don't want to lose him either. He promised he wouldn't force me to interact with any of his women. So far, we've had a couple of pleasant outings that have gone well so far. I'm cautiously hopeful that we can continue to be in each other's lives. As for me, well, I took that advice some of you gave me, and I am in therapy. It is humbling to come to the realization that though you may think that you are fine, you are actually not. It has been almost unbearable to face all that history and excruciatingly painful to dig through it all. At the end of some sessions, all I want to do is head to the nearest bar and drink until I forget about all what I just went through, to find out where it all started and why I am the way I am. I think therapy is one of the most difficult things I've ever done. I don't know how some of you have been doing this for as long as you have. I also don't know why you do it so willingly. I'm a crazy nutter for listening to all you nutters in the first place, but it is helping. Now for the update most of you want. I cannot even tell you how many messages I continue to receive from people wanting to know about him. It was almost like you were all saying, "Girl, we don't care about whatever life crisis you're going through, just tell us about the date." Well, I haven't replied to any of these queries because my post wasn't about him. Now I figure in a roundabout way, I owe you something because you all played a part in where we are today. I won't give a rundown of everything that has happened between us, but I will give you a few things. He contacted me after seeing a podcast on YouTube. He sent me a link with a query. "Is this you?" It would be an understatement to say I was mortified. My mortification kept me from replying to him. I was so deep in my embarrassment that I didn't even bother to read messages he sent me over the next couple of weeks. When I finally did read them, it was to find a whole heap of screenshots of people's comments. I'm going out on a limb by saying you don't need to tell me to tell you the contents of the comments he was sending me. I eventually got back to him. It was difficult for us to make time to see each other. As I stated earlier, my life, both personal, has been busy. He also has a life and work. We were only able to meet up for coffee a couple of times. I didn't think we were going to be able to grow a friendship, let alone anything beyond that. I've since learned that he is tenacious and persistent, like a dog with a bone. He kept at it until we found time to go on a second date. That date went well and led to another, then another. Then he introduced me to the two most important people in his life, his grandparents. His grandfather carves little wooden figurines and have since acquired a flock of wooden birds. His grandmother thinks I'm too skinny. She feeds me whenever I see her and usually sends me home with food. He gets along with my sister and brothers. He came to me to visit my mother on her birthday and met them all. He was very gracious with her. Had him saved in my phone as Cheeseburger. He took issue with that because he bought me a double cheeseburger. So I started calling him Double Cheese, and then shortened that to DC. It's still saved in my phone as Cheeseburger. He's an undercover Swiftie, and I don't quite know what to do with that. I don't have anything against Taylor Swift, but I sure didn't pick him to love her. He did use little sister and niece as cover for his Taylor Swift love. Now he uses me. I'm fine with being so used. Damn, I love that nickname. Double Cheese. And I think that's a great update. I'm glad that your mum did reach out to you and you was able to reconnect in that way, and that she's doing better now. She was clearly deep in it. As for your dad, I know you said you're meeting him, but personally don't like the guy. but I don't have to see him, so I just always step back in these situations, and I think, if this guy can do this to his family and loved ones and continue to do it, yeah, it just sounds like an arsehole to me. But Conscious Survey said to the OP, "This is an excellent update. DC is a keeper. I'm glad Mum realized the truth in what you said and set herself free, and now has all her children back. I'm glad things are going great for you now. Keep up the good work. Hugs to you for making through all that crap. Realistic Business says, I wish I had your courage to be as outspoken with your parents to my certain family members. It's good to hear that your mum left and is moving on. Your dad has slowly learned a valuable lesson on his infidelity. You're his last link to his children. You're cautiously hopeful, not optimistic to a relationship will keep him on his toes, so he doesn't lose you as well. If you and DC end up marrying, your first date will be great material to tell your kids. Whatever life takes you, continue to strive and be at peace. Being a Swiftie isn't that bad. Starry Dust says, this is a very satisfying update. Seems everyone is making progress and moving in the right direction, except your father. It didn't seem to bother him at all that his marriage to your mother ended. I mean, they had to have been married for over 30 years. I'm so happy to hear you're dating the cheeseburger. Hope things continue to go well with that. Was hoping to hear something about the cheating ex, like he's homeless and lost his job, lol. Opie says, he's not even a blip on my radar. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. I just wanted to say a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time, as always, is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for what you do. Absolutely amazing. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, drink some water.